If I had known how it would all end, I wouldn't have gone down there, even under threat of death. They say the old psychiatric hospital outside town was avoided even by vagrants. They supposedly shut it down back in the 90s, claiming there'd been a tuberculosis outbreak. But something about that story always felt off. Not a single photo or video from inside, just rare rumors. And one sign on a metal door: Isolator 0, entry prohibited, dangerous to life. When my friends and I turned 15, we decided to check it out, like fools, just to see if the rumors were true. We laughed then. Now I still wake at the sound of scraping and dread looking at the corner of my room, because she might be there. The one left below. There were 5 of us: me, Vlad, Sasha, Liza, and Max. He was the oldest and, in his mind, immortal. He found the entrance under a broken stairway behind a moss-covered concrete slab. We shoved aside the panel and climbed down. The stench was like someone had dumped a sack of dead animals on the stairs and sealed it for a week. We descended into a narrow corridor. Rusted metal linings on the walls, a drip, drip, drip from the ceiling. The silence was such that every breath felt like a scream. Suddenly, Vlad pulled out a tattered folder smeared with red ink. "Cell 0, do not feed." We thought it a prank. Then came a scratch from behind the wall. Not wood creaking, but claws against concrete. A hiss like a snake. Liza grabbed my hand so hard I felt her nails dig in. Max shoved his hand into an old metal cabinet. "Ha! Empty!" he laughed, then pulled out a rag, damp, fresh, and on it were huge prints twice the size of a human hand, the digits twisted like gnarled tree branches. At once, a shadow slid across the ceiling, thin, elongated, soundless. We clung to each other like frightened children. Max laughed again. "It's just a projection." But I already knew we weren't alone. We ran, stumbling, scratching, screaming, but it was too late. Liza fell, and then I saw it. Something crawled out of the darkness, faceless, its skin white like milk film. Where its eyes should be were 2 black pits. Its mouth stretched down to its chest, and inside, something moved. No muscle, no tongue, alive, dark, like leeches or mouths within mouths. It touched Liza, and she froze, like a mannequin, but with eyes wide open. Part 2 of this creepy tale. The atmosphere grows ever more horrifying, the revulsion ever closer, and the logic of fear ever more despairing. The clickbait style remains intact. The length has increased. The structure is seamless. The style hypnotically terrifying. After Liza froze, I carried her out in my arms. Her body was cold as a corpse's. She neither spoke, nor wept, nor blinked, only breathed, as if someone else was breathing through her chest. Max didn't run. We waited. We screamed. But the silence in that basement was like a wall. Sasha said he'd return for Max. He went. We, me, Vlad, and Liza, hid in the bushes. Liza sat, staring at one point, white blotches on her face. The creature's fingers had burned prints into her skin as though with acid. 10 minutes later, Sasha returned, his face green. He said only, "There's no stairway." The walls. They shifted as though we were in a stomach. I heard it calling, but Max called, not with voice, but with a sound, a whisper from inside me. We left without a word, without sleep. The next day, police arrived. Someone called them, not us. They hauled out black bags from the basement. Someone said bones, children's bones, very old, and part of a jaw, like a human's, but with 5 rows of teeth. Then the news went silent. They claimed they'd poured concrete over the basement, but we knew. No one sealed anything. It wasn't there. It had already come out. 3 days later, Liza spoke, for the first time, not with her voice, but with a husky, flat, low tone, impossible for a human throat. "Max is coming." We froze. The power cut out. The window in Liza's room fogged from the inside, and on the glass appeared a handprint with 6 fingers. Her father thought someone was playing a prank. He set up a security camera linked to a monitor. That night, he woke me, his face pale as a corpse's. "Look, what is that?" On the footage at 2:43 a.m., Liza rises and walks to the window. Then from the shadow, under the bed, a hand reaches out. Non-human, long, thin-fingered, scaly like fish skin. It touches her foot. Liza does not react. A second later, a silhouette appears, not entering nor emerging, but oozing from the wall like black slime forming flesh. It sits in the corner and stares straight at the camera, though it has no eyes. I thought I'd lose my mind. Then the feed cut out, the screen scrambled, and this appeared. "Isolator 0 active. Isolator 0 active." We unplugged the camera. In the morning, her father took Liza away and vanished. I never saw them again. A month later, I received a letter. No return address, no text. Just one photograph, a still from the camera. Me, asleep in the corner. And in the closet, it sat, staring at me. We thought we left it in the past, but the past is not a date. It's a being, living in the basements of memory, and it has the key to your door. Months passed. I tried to forget. I couldn't. Vlad changed. Dark, silent. He stopped eating meat, not out of vegetarianism, but because it senses when you chew something alive. It remembers the taste. I laughed, then realized I had stopped eating meat too, and I heard scratching beneath the floor. Everything worsened when Vlad disappeared. He said he was going to an old school to film a TikTok, proving ghosts are real. He never returned. Police said he'd run away. But I found his phone in a restroom flooded with water where mirrors were oddly fogged from the inside. And in the gallery, 5 seconds of video, Vlad filming himself. And behind him in the corridor, a black figure jerking frame by frame, not walking, but shifting. And then, a face. Zoom in. I realized it was Max, but his head was wrapped in skin with no mouth, no eyes, nothing. Then came another letter. No stamps, no marks, just a sheet scrawled in ink. "You must finish what you started, or it will come for you." That same day I saw him, a man in a leather coat, pale face, fingers like the dead. He approached me on the street and said, "You think that was a rift? Number, it's a step. Hunger. It sleeps where children cried and were never found." I asked who he was. He replied, "0. And I will take you to him." He gave me coordinates. I rode the commuter train 3 hours to a station with no name, to a village not on any map, only one house. In its basement, a door, but the door didn't lead into the earth, but into strangeness. Walls of living flesh. Floor of ribs, and in the center, Liza. She sat with her back turned, hair wet and tangled, singing in an unknown tongue, her child's voice echoing in my belly like the nausea of carrion. I yelled. She turned, and it wasn't Liza. Eyes without lids, a mouth sewn shut, black fluid streaming from her nose. She kept singing without opening her lips, and behind her, he stood. Max, ceiling tall, hands like cables, fingers like spears. He didn't move, but I felt him stroke the back of my head. From the inside. "Are you ready?" A voice sounded in my mind. At that moment, I didn't know who I was. I was myself, Vlad, and the one in the closet. We were all parts of a single mouth. I screamed. I woke up at home. Everything as before, except Liza was outside the window, still singing. On the floor by my bed was a clear message: 0 equals 5. I still don't understand what it means, but 5, that's us, and 0 now lives in us. Part 4, the final chapter. As vile and psych-horrific as possible, ending so you'll want to rip the plug from the wall just to avoid seeing who stands behind you. You think the scariest thing is seeing a monster? Number. The scariest thing is when the monster smiles your smile. It speaks in my voice, but I am not me. Since I returned, if that was even a return, everything began to shift. The room was different, the windows different. My mother, strange, stared at me too long, and once I woke to her breath, standing and sniffing my face. I asked, "Mom?" She said, "And you? Are you my son?" I no longer sleep. On the third day, a package appeared in my backpack. I didn't put it there. It was wrapped in bandages soaked in something thick and sweet sickening. When I unwrapped it, there was a tongue, mummified, with human teeth. Carved into it were letters, M-Y-N-A-M-E. I screamed. But the voice was not mine, sounding like an old tape deck playing a cassette backward. I began recording every night with a voice recorder. One night, playing it back, I heard, "I love you, I will eat you from the inside. I've already spoken to you. You just didn't listen. There's no meat in the fridge. It's Vlad." I opened the fridge. There was nothing but an eye. One like Vlad's, the same color but now staring at me and blinking. I don't know how many days passed. New sounds, new movements rose within me. Sometimes my body moves without my command, fingers scraping walls. And one day, I saw myself on the security cam monitor. I was sleeping, and in the corner of the frame sat myself, mirrors for eyes, looking straight into the lens and smiling with my smile, only without lips, only too many teeth. Now I write this as something stirs behind me, breathing on the wallpaper. I know if I look back, it will be too late. Do you know what's most disgusting? It didn't come to me. It grew inside me. All these months since we first descended into that basement. Vlad, its flesh. Liza, its voice. Max, its being. And I, its new mouth. Remember, if you hear this, it already knows your name, and it is hungry.